Today we're going to do some work with the little guy. And because we're here at FluteTube, when I say the little guy, I mean this little guy. It was only a handful of decades ago that flutists would routinely say they could not play the piccolo because it would ruin their flute embouchure. I think that idea has nearly died. People recognize that the embouchure is so similar to the flute high register that it should not ruin your flute embouchure. And if you refuse to play the piccolo, it can really keep you away from a lot of great opportunities. For instance, if you're trying to break into the gig scene where you live, whether you're trying to play with a world-class orchestra that's in your town, or even a semi-professional regional group that's near where you live, they will never call you up and say, "Ah, yes, excuse me, we were looking for a principal flutist. Would you mind lending your expertise and coming to take over the flute section of our ensemble?" They will always start by asking you to be a member of the section and not the principal. If you are asked to play second or third flute, chances are very good that that will double with piccolo. And if you're asked to play both flute and piccolo and you say, "Oh no, I don't play the piccolo," then chances are they're not going to call you again, or not very often. You will open up all kinds of opportunities for yourself if you get feeling equally at ease with the little guy as you feel with your regular flute. Let's say we've all agreed that you should sound your very best on this little instrument. That means you should do everything in your power to develop a beautiful tone and the most flawless intonation and great sound you can. I'm going to give you a tone study that I think is really excellent for the piccolo. It's great on flute too, but it's especially effective on the piccolo. This was given to me by Jack Wellbaum. He was a very well-known piccolo player. He was piccoloist with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra for 40 years. I studied with him at the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music when I was there for 2 years. Monday nights were piccolo night. We had class with him and he took us through big fat books of piccolo excerpts and piccolo study books, and also just handed out a lot of his own favorite studies. I got this one from him and I want to show you what it is. It's very simple. You'll be able to walk away from watching this episode of FluteTube, pull out your piccolo and play right through it. You start this exercise just as you do with our most famous flute tone study, the Della Sonorite #1 exercise from Marcel Moyse. And even if you don't think you know what that exercise is, I bet you do. We play a B, and we go down by half step to B flat. We hold that B flat out. We let it taper. We get the most beautiful sound that we can. That's the same way that you start this piccolo tone study. But what makes this study so wonderful for intonation is that once you've done that half step down from B to B flat, you then go up by fifths and fourths. So B flat to F to high B flat, back down to the high F, back down to the B flat right above the staff. These perfect intervals, perfect fifths, perfect fourths, filling out a perfect octave are some of the easiest to hear. You can tell if you're in tune or not, and making these big intervallic leaps helps you to tell if you can stay in tune as you travel up and down the piccolo range. We play B to B flat, go from B flat to F to high B flat, back down to F, back down to B flat, and then again we go down by half step, B flat to A, and once again we travel up the piccolo range, going from A to high E, up to your highest A, back down to the high E, and down to the A right above the staff. After you've gone down your range like this for a little while, you reach the next step of this exercise. And this is where I feel it really gets magic. You're going to keep going all the way down the range of your piccolo. But as you go down, you're going to continue going up by leaps to the very top of your register when you go from G flat to F at the top of the staff. If you're really brave, you can start it right here. You go from F to C to high F to high C, back down to high F, to the C above the staff, to the F on the staff. If you don't dare do your high C, at least start on the next one. Do F to E, then you go up by fifths and fourths and octaves, E to B, high B, back down to high E, back down to B, back down to the E that's in the top of the staff. This will be so good for you to develop your sense of intonation on the piccolo and also to make your tone very smooth, lyrical, connected through your entire piccolo range. Hopefully you can see the logic of what's going to happen. As we get lower and lower, you continue going up very high. The two lowest possible pitches that we can get to on the piccolo are this E flat and D. And the last step of this exercise will be to play low E flat down to low D, and then you're going to go all the way up as high as you can, which in this case is to high A. Of course, just doing this exercise with your bare ears is going to give you a lot of information about how well you're playing in tune. You might find that there are certain notes on your piccolo that are constantly a little bit flat or a little bit sharp, and you start to learn how to instantly make adjustments that will bring those pitches right where they need to be. But you should not be surprised when you hear me say that one of the most effective things you can do with this exercise is to do it with a tuner. You can either get a tuner that shows a needle and make sure you're placing that needle right dead on the pitch where it should be, or what I prefer actually is to use a drone pitch. You can get a good drone pitch with Dr. Beat. There's a tuner on here, and you can set it to a pitch, play your perfect fifths and octaves and fourths above that pitch, and again, just by nature of them being perfect intervals, you'll hear quite well whether or not you're staying in tune. There's another great way that you can practice this that will be more effective than just listening with your bare ears. This is my very favorite way to practice this exercise. If I'm playing the piccolo in an orchestra or another ensemble, I get to the rehearsal and I'm warming up, and while the entire ensemble is warming up, I love to do this exercise. I make sure I'm not doing it too loudly or aggressively. I don't want to be a bad neighbor to my fellow musicians, but I find that as others around me are warming up and playing this sea of pitches, it provides a really great framework of tonality for me to judge my own pitches against and hear whether or not I'm playing really exactly in tune. For me, that works better than just hearing the one dry note on a tuner if I'm swimming in this sea of pitches that my colleagues are providing for me. Give it a try. Next time you're playing piccolo in an ensemble, warm up with this as your colleagues are also warming up. I bet you'll be pleasantly surprised at how much it helps you to hear your intonation tendencies. This exercise should help you to develop a lot of piccolo confidence. You should be able to tell as you play it regularly that not only are your tone and your pitch improving, but that you are becoming a more lyrical, expressive player. Your registers are better connected together. You have a lot more flexibility as you go between your high and low registers on the piccolo. Your tone and your pitch will be much more connected, consistent, lyrical, and predictable through the high range down to your low range and back up again. And it should definitely help you to be able to go out there and play your piccolo with confidence. Have fun with the little guy.